Good afternoon, this is Jacob here, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about something I think is really important. If we're going to be successful in any business, I think it takes a tremendous amount of dedication. It takes a tremendous amount of being intentional. So today what I named this live ad, or this podcast, is Live with Intentionality. And so I want to talk a little bit about what intentionality is, and a little bit about what the Bible has to say about it, because I was reading the Bible recently, and people talk about the golden rule. They talk about different things in the Bible, and I realized that the Bible is a book about living intentionally, like knowing what the Bible says and then intentionally acting upon that information. And I think that there's so much to be said about living intentionally. I don't think that anything ever, no positive change ever happens by accident. Positive change is always intentional, and greatness is never an accident. So in Luke 6:27 it says, "But I say unto you that hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate you, and bless them that curse you, and pray for them which despitefully use you." Now, some people want to say, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. They want to say, oh, that means do unto others as they did unto you. But that's not what it's saying. We have to intentionally act to other people as we want them to act to us. So it's like, it's about being intentional. So the actual definition of being intentional is, it comes from, I'm not even sure which dictionary I pulled it from. The fact of being deliberate or purposive. The philosophy of it is the quality of mental states, thoughts, beliefs, desires, hopes that consists of their being directed towards some object or state of affairs. Like, we have to intentionally, we have a mental state about how we're going to be intentional about our beliefs, our desires, our hopes. We're intentional about those things. So the Bible talks a lot of places about intentionality. And I want to talk a little bit about why intentionality is so important. And one of the main reasons why intentionality is so important is I don't think that if we want to have positive change, we want to have positive progress, there always needs to be some intentionality that pushes it. Intentionality is the fuel. Being intentional about something, that is the fuel that pushes it forward. So I don't really think that Murphy, we all know about Murphy's Law. So he wasn't necessarily considered for a great inspirational teacher, but he did say some things that are important, that are relevant to this. And so Murphy's seventh law is, left to themselves, things tend to go from bad to worse. And I think that is so true. Like, if we don't intentionally, if things are going bad, if there is something in our life that we don't like, if there's something that is not going well, then we have to be intentional about changing that. If we don't take action, if we don't be intentional about that, how can we expect there to be change? Like, we all want change for the better. We all want change for things that happen to be good, but we have to be intentional about those things. So one good example of this in the Bible is Noah. When Noah was building the ark, it took him 120 years to build his ark. He didn't just accidentally say, oh, well, I built the ark. No. It took a great deal of intentionality to build the ark. It took a great deal of intentionality for Moses to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. It takes a great deal of intentionality for Jesus to die on the cross. Like, we were created to be intentional. We were created to, in the Bible it says, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. When we are being fruitful, like, that takes intentionality. That takes planning. That takes, like, I'm going to do this. Like, it takes a great deal of intentionality to act upon this. And it's in Genesis, first chapter of Genesis, and it says, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fish of the sea, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So We were created to have dominion over the earth. We were created to be intentional about these things. We were created to go out there and take the things and the environment around of us, those the negative and the positive. We're supposed to take the things with intentionality and have dominion over it. We cannot allow life, we cannot allow the negative things of this life to control us. In Romans 2 it says, no, in Romans 12:2 it says, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Well, we can't, if we allow things to conform us, then we are not living in intentionality. In order to truly live intentionally, in order to truly create what we want out of life, then we have to be intentional about it. We have to say, this is what I want out of life, and then we have to take steps in that direction. And if we do, if those things are not coming and happening in our life, then we know one thing. We almost never that we take intentional steps toward a direction that those things do not happen. We cannot control outside circumstances. We cannot control when things don't always go according to plan. However, if we're not closer to our goal, if we're not closer to where we want to go, it is because we did not take action. Greatness is never an accident, ever. There is nothing like accidental greatness. It just does not happen. So another one of my biblical heroes is David. And so David was called a man after God's own heart. Now, what makes, I've thought about this a lot, and I've studied this a lot. What was it about David that made him so special? What was it that made him such an amazing man of God? And I think it's because his life of intentionality. He served God. He lived for God with his whole heart, with everything he did. And he was faithful in all things. He was faithful in all those little things. He lived with great intentionality. And so actually talks about it a little bit. Luke 16:10, it says, he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. That takes intentionality to live faithfully. It takes intentionality to always be honest. It takes intentionality to not allow negative things to conform us. It takes intentionality to love other people even if they're hard to love. It takes great intentionality to create anything successful in life. So, guys, I think this is one of the most important things that we can know is that our life, we must be intentional. If we want to have great business relationships, guess what we're going to have to do? We will have to go out there and be intentional about the relationships that we develop in our business. We have to be intentional about the relationships that we develop with our employees. We have to be intentional about the projects, like I do roofing. So for myself, I have to be very intentional about the actual project that I do a quality job, that I do the absolute best I can for the customer, that I do what the customer needs, what he asks for, what he's looking for, that I serve the customer to what the customer needs. I have to be intentional about those things. I also have to be intentional about taking care of my employees, make sure they're safe, all these things, anything positive, anything good must be done intentionally. Yeah, I just think this is one of the most important things we can talk about in our business relationships. If we really think about the different dynamics of a successful relationship, everything comes down to being intentional. We have to be intentional. If we just let things go willy-nilly, hey, that's not how it works. It'd be like saying, well, I'll get around to paying my taxes someday when I feel like it. I don't think anybody ever really feels like paying taxes. So guess what we have to do? The IRS is going to come knocking on your door and say, man, you got to pay these taxes. So we got to be intentional about the things, or in the long run, we cannot be successful. We cannot. We have to be intentional. So anyway, hope you guys got some value out of that. Feel free to comment below, guys. I know that I don't have everything perfect. I don't have everything right on the money, but if you have a comment, if you have some thoughts on this, please comment below, share your thoughts. Hope you guys have an incredible day. Thanks for listening. We'll talk with you next time.